Hey, welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to look at the Amius boss again. Last week I released a video on my strategy to defeat Amius on the hard difficulty for this rotation that we're currently experiencing. And I was unaware that between normal and hard difficulty that there would be a change. The previous 5 rotations that we've had of Cintranos, of the Cursed City, we've had the same selection of champions available on both normal and hard. In fact, it expands a little bit on normal, and so I thought mistakenly that the champions that I used on hard would all be available on normal for this rotation. To my surprise, that was not the case, and so I had to form a different team. I had a different team on the previous rotation that we had this one, but they were different. They haven't matched up. So I'm going to show you. First of all, because I neglected in my last video to show you the builds of the champions I used for hard, so we'll go through and I will show you the stats for the hard boss, and then I'll show you the champions that I used in all of their builds, just so that you can get an idea of kind of what levels I was dealing with, so that as you watch my video, you'll kind of know, okay, if I have this level of HP, I can expect this outcome. That would have been very helpful. I apologize for not including that in my video last week. So I'll include that. I'll link it in the description of the previous video, and then I'll link my previous video to the description in this video also, so you can kind of get an idea. We'll also go through the normal Amius for this rotation, and I'll show you the champions that I used for it, and I kind of devised a strategy based on the same principles that I use on hard. The boss's mechanics are exactly the same. His stats are a little bit lower, but he's still very difficult to deal with. I think they should make normal a little bit more accessible, but it is a difficult fight because of his mechanics. And so I'll show you the process that I went through, and kind of the logic process or the thought process that I go through when formulating a team. And so even if you don't have the same champions I do, you'll at least know which functions you have to perform, and then I'll show you the stat levels also of the team that I use on the normal mode as well. So as I get ready to show you the builds that I used for the Amius video I did last week for the hard difficulty, I want to show you a comment that I got on the video. Very fair comment, by the way. Aries24 said, "Where the heck are the stats on each champion used with the?" didn't have the same impact with the facepalm. It's a very fair comment. I didn't include builds. I was going for more of an analytical look at how to plan a team and build the boss and everything, but it is important to have the builds, the masteries and the stats and everything available. And I just neglected. I missed it. I should have had it in there, and I just didn't. And so I apologize to anyone who would have benefited from that. There was a like on that comment as well, so Aries wasn't the only one who felt that way. And when I saw the comment, I knew right away. I agreed with him that should have been there. So I'll go through the builds. I'll show you. I have all the champions up, and I haven't made any changes to them since then. Some of these builds are not ideal. I'll fully admit that. But you saw from the video, I did get through the fight. And the thing about Cintranos and about Amius, it's a fight that you only have to do once a month. And so I try and just do the bare minimum to get through it. There are more efficient ways to do things, and there's ways to min-max those fights and everything. But there's no extra points. There's no extra points for being able to do it at a higher higher damage or higher difficulty. There's clout. If you can do it if you can do the fight in 20 seconds, like some of the Fushan ones, and ones where they're ignoring his defense, he's got crazy stats, guys. Let me show you here the stats on Amius Hard. Okay, he's got the 4.2 million health, 20,000 attack, 11,000 defense. You've got to ignore a lot of defense if you're doing conventional damage to this guy. That's why I depended on Brimstone. HP burn is also a good strategy. I don't think poison works very well at all, but yeah, that's why I'm depending on Brimstone and then just surviving the fight whenever I do this. And his 250 speed, 50% crit rate, 100% crit damage. He has 550 accuracy. So to be able to resist him, you would need 675 resistance, which I find a little bit difficult to accomplish, especially given the accuracy requirements. So he has 450 resistance, and ideally you want at least 475 accuracy to overcome his resistance. Now, you'll see from my builds, I'll show you here, the champions that I'm actually using accuracy on, where I'm trying to affect the boss. You'll see some of my accuracy is a little bit low. But I'll go through here. Here's my Duchess, and Duchess is in my arena build. There are plenty of a lot stronger Duchesses out there. I'm not trying to claim that this is a strong build by any means. I've got her at under 70,000 HP, which on a Duchess for arena you'd want her higher than that. I have her in protection set though, and I've got her pretty fast for a Duchess. It kind of takes people by surprise sometimes that she's over 300 speed. I've got the 4.6k defense. Attack doesn't matter on Duchess. I don't have her built for any kind of damage. It's just for her to survive. I only have the 587 resistance in the level of arena I'm playing. That really doesn't get me very far. And then she doesn't need accuracy. So really, I've got her for her speed, her defense a little, and the HP is helpful. But then the resistance is really only for low level accuracy opponents. And I do find it, obviously that's enough for Hydra. I do use her in Hydra also, but you see, I've got the polymorph blessing on her. And with 6-star polymorph, she doesn't need accuracy. High level accuracy opponents can affect her, but then she has a pretty good chance of sheeping them. And so that's why I have her in polymorph. And for this Amius fight though, this is not ideal. An arena build doesn't work great on her. Plus, I haven't even looked at masteries. Okay, so that's turn meter. Merciful Aid for healing, and then Spirit Haste for dead allies, and Lasting Gifts. So yeah, the Lasting Gifts I think is really important on Duchess, and then the Spirit Haste in case somebody dies because she's a reviver. And then I have her with Unshakable for resistance. But like I said, the resistance, she doesn't have a high enough level of resistance to resist anything that Amius is doing. This is purely, these masteries are purely for arena, and sometimes they don't work that great for that. I could really improve her build. I haven't really touched it in a while. I'm finding I'm not using her as often as I used to, especially in live arena. But she worked for this fight, and that was the main thing. I'll go through Iron Brago here. This is maybe going to be shocking that for some people that he even survives. He does have a lot of defense. He's got 4,000 defense. He's a defense-based champion. Only 50,000, just under 50,000 HP, and he's slow. He's 232 speed. That's 20 speed slower than the boss. And I don't even have him crit capped. 185, it's a tiny amount of crit damage, but I do have the accuracy on him, the 469 accuracy. With Brimstone at this level, you need accuracy to place it, and so that's the reason that I built him with the accuracy that I did. I could make him faster. I could take him out of the poison set, for example. He's toxic. He's in the toxic set that puts poison on. The poisons don't do that much. They're the small version of poison. And at this level, he's got a 30% chance of placing smite. So yeah, and it helps with stats a little bit, but you see he's just not, he's not built that well. And his masteries are not built for this fight either. I built these masteries a long time ago. Iron Brago was one of, I got him quite a while ago, more than 2 years ago. And so you can see, I've got him with, let me come down here. I've got him with Helm Smasher, which if I had him in War Master, this fight would take a lot less time. He gets a lot of A1s in, and so I'm sure if I changed him to War Master, he would get. But I just wanted to show you, because this isn't ideal, I wanted to show you that even if your builds aren't ideal, if you have a a certain minimum level and they're doing a job for you and they can survive, I don't see a need to change this. But yeah, this is a build I did a long time ago. Maybe I was using him in Arena or something, or I don't know. It's it's not a good build for this, but I use him in my faction wars and he does fine. He works out okay, but it's not ideal. Yeah, if I was redoing his masteries, I would go over here to the support tree. I would probably just put him on the defense tree also, because I'm not expecting, or maybe I'd go over here and put him in War Master just to make the fight take a little less time, do a little bit more conventional damage to get some War Master procs. But you can see, not an ideal build there. Duodan, I only built, I started building Duodan for Phantom Shogun. That didn't work out. I have a different team for Phantom Shogun now. It's a lot better. So Duodan, I have him in this Avenging set, and the Avenging set gives a 45% chance of counterattacking when receiving debuffs. And the reason I put him in that was because when he gets an A1, he has a chance of removing a debuff. So he attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of removing one random debuff from all allies. So from every ally, he has a 50-50 shot of removing one debuff. So I figure if he's getting a debuff, maybe the rest of the team is also. So I put him in Avenging just to give him that extra chance. And it's it's a pretty good gear set for him in this situation. Avenging is not a good gear set overall in the game, but and then I'm using, obviously I talked about this in the video before, I'm using him for his shield. Okay, so his stats got him at 252 speed, so just barely faster than the boss. 3,800 defense, 73,000 HP. 375 on resistance, and that was that's kind of a useless amount of resistance, really. If I rethought that, I'd probably do something different with him. And he doesn't need accuracy for anything that he does in his kit. And I do have a blood shield. I thought maybe if I was going to use him in Hydra or something, but that shield is actually nice. You want a buff on your champions that the boss, the Amius, can't do anything with. So if you have Blood Shield that you can put on some of your champions, I actually think that's really helpful to do, because it can't hurt you. He can't turn a shield against you. And so that's maybe a helpful strategy there. His masteries here, I've got him in Unshakable and he's still only at 375 resistance. That's not good. That's not worthwhile. And you see, I don't even have a fifth row for the support tree on him here. I do have him with some shielding, the support masteries with shielding and Lore of Steel. I actually like improved parry sometimes when it reduces damage on a critical hit. But yeah, he's not that, you can see the masteries here. He's not really built that well, and I haven't finished his masteries. But again, another one that does his job. Padma, let's look at her stats first. Padma's stats, I've got her at 280 speed. Yeah, pretty kind of low defense, but she is surviving. And I think you saw that Brago is pretty much the one that takes the most damage, and only 55,000 HP. I'm surprised that's that low, but she needs to crit, so you have to have her crit capped to be able to consistently land her A1. So it's really important that she be at 100% crit rate. And then 441 accuracy. The Hell Hades site, and I don't remember if I mentioned the stats that I clipped. It came from hellhades.com. You can go up and look at the stats of any boss of any fight, of any wave in Doom Tower, whatever you're fighting, Cintranos, all the waves. You can look at any stat of any of the enemies that you face in PvE content on hellhades.com. And it's a really nice resource to be able to use to know kind of what you have to shoot for stats wise. But you'll see I've only got 441, and their recommendation is 475 accuracy, and so I'm under that. But you notice from the video I don't think I missed her buff steal or her decrease attack when I attempted to do it. I think I might have gotten one random resist on decrease attack. So that worked out well. I think if you can do it, you should go for the 475 accuracy on your debuffers on your Amius, and Brimstone also. If you don't have the 6-star on your Brimstone to put that smite debuff on, you're going to want to have the 475 accuracy also. You see, I've got her in regen, so that's probably why she was surviving longer than Brago, because she has a self-heal on the regen gear. But it's not a crazy build either. So the main thing with this fight, yes, the stat levels are pretty high, but they're not crazy. It's mostly understanding how the boss works and being able to serve all the functions that you need to in a team. And like I said, there's other crazy teams that do it, but I think the boss fight is more about surviving for most people and just being able to do damage over time. See Manaya's build here. She's also in regen. Have her, decent 252 speed again, just faster than the boss. You want her to be able to be a little faster than the boss so that she can consistently land that heal reduction after he takes his turn. His A3 in his base form is the one where he changes the buffs, or his debuffs into buffs. So if you've got decreased attack on him, which you should have when he changes to base form, then he wants to change that into increased attack for himself, and then his A2 is his big heal. So when you have decreased attack on him, it forces him kind of to use his A3 first, so that he doesn't do his big heal the first time when he changes into his base form. Then you can have Manaya put this heal reduction on him, and then when he does his A2, then he doesn't get the heal, and so so you see also with her, I've only got her at 451 accuracy, so still lower than the 475 that's required. And like I said, I could change these builds. I could rob gear from other champions and make that more consistent. But I feel like it's better to risk a failure on this fight and hope that you get through it because you're only doing it once a month. And so I tried it at these stat levels that I could get with gear that I didn't have on other champions. And it worked, and so I'm not going to change it. Once something works, I'm just not I'm not going to change it unless there's some incentive, and for this fight there wouldn't be. But yeah, you can see she's got 3,300 defense and 70,000 HP. So that's the build for her. Mastery's on her. I did put the accuracy on her to get to that point. Let me put her in the collection. See, I even have her in the vault. And you see here, I don't have the tier 5. I did put Master Hexer on to try and increase the duration of the heal block. She does a leech too. Let me see what I don't even know what the condition of that leech is. Heals this champion and the ally with the lowest HP by 30% of the champion's max HP, and then has a 75% chance of placing 100% heal reduction debuff and a leech debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Okay, so she does place the leech 100%. I thought she was. I just didn't. I wasn't sure. And then she has the block debuffs also, which is helpful when he's at the end of his terrible, horrible blood moon form that he takes, not his base form but the other form. So that can be helpful too. And then she has a shield with that also, but I never use that at the end when he's in his base form at the end, because the block debuffs turns into block buffs on your champions. And so that's not one you want to mess with. So those are the builds for the hard fight. Now I want to go through and show you the stats for Amius on normal difficulty. Okay, and I'll get back to you with those stats. I'll show you Amius's normal stats, and then I'll show you the builds for this team, and then I'll walk you through the fight. Okay, here are the stats for Amius on normal difficulty. You can see the the health and the attack are still, and defense, they're still high. I mean, that's that's no joke. And his speed is 50 lower. He's got 200 speed on normal, and then he's got a 50% crit rate and 100% crit damage, just like on the hard boss. He has 450 accuracy, so you would need 575 resistance to resist his effects. He has 350 resistance, so you would need 375 accuracy to put your debuffs on him, or Brimstone if you don't have 6-star, or Smite if you don't have 6-star Brimstone. So those are his stats on normal. Now, my team for normal is these 5. I use Siphi for block buffs, for some healing, and also just because of her incredible speed, and she has a revive if you need it, obviously. And the nice thing about Siphi's revive, if you are reviving someone, they revive with full turn meter, and for this fight that's really important. Duchess, that I used on hard, obviously Siphi isn't available on the hard one that we did. Duchess being available on hard, her revive is really not a great one for this fight because her revive doesn't have any turn meter. She only revives one champion, but it revives with full turn meter, and so then they're back into the fight if you need that crucial skill or something. We don't risk a lot of dying as long as we as long as I don't forget which skill we're using at the time. So I haven't used her revive on this difficulty, but it's there if we need it, if we get into trouble. So I have her. She's way too fast for this fight. If I really wanted to speed tune this fight, I would go way down on her speed, and I think going 1-to-1 with the boss is probably a good idea. And so at being 200 speed, I would lower everybody down to either just over or just under that 200 speed. But the mechanics that he uses don't change. So you can see my Siphi. This is my arena build for Siphi also. 4,500 defense, 70,000 HP, 371 speed, and she doesn't need accuracy. And I've only got 332 resist on her. So I have her just built for speed. So, and like I said, that's not. There's a lot faster Siphis out there. There's a lot faster other speed boosters out there. So I know this isn't a. I'm not trying to showcase that this is a great build for a Siphi, but it's what I can do. It's what I can do with the gear that I have. So I'll show you her masteries, but they're just arena masteries. Like I said, the resistance is almost just a token resistance. And because I only have the 5-star blessing on her, I don't have her in polymorph. The blessing, I've got her in intimidating presence just to give a little bit of boost to whatever aura that I have for the team. So, if I have her paired with an Arbiter or an Armons or another speed booster, then her intimidating presence applies to that aura, and it just makes her a little bit faster. And then if I put her in the lead, it gives the 80 resist, and so it increases her resist, up to that, that higher level where, getting over 400, but still, that's like half of the amount of resistance you need at the level of arena I'm playing. So it's really not that good. Her masteries though are just, basic masteries for arena. I don't have anything. What you don't want to have in this Amius fight is Cycle of Magic, where it decreases the cooldown of a random skill. That stops the fight. If this happens, if that procs, he puts everybody to sleep. He takes all your debuffs he takes all your buffs and turns them into debuffs, and then he does his single target hit on whoever he wants. And I think it's usually the champion that procs on. You don't want anything that gives you a chance at reducing the cooldown of a skill. So even if it's a champion that reduces cooldowns, you don't want any of those skills to work either. So Cycle of Violence also, you don't want to use Cycle of Violence on anybody and any of your champions. And I hate changing people's masteries for this fight also. For example, I was going to try and use I have a Grazur Iron Gut, but I have him built for Hydra, and I want a chance at getting his his max HP hit more often. And I had that mastery on him, and I tried it. It procced. He killed the whole team, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to use it. I wasn't going to change his masteries just for this fight. So what I did was I just found another way. Grisur is actually good though. If you use a Grisur, he has a shield that he puts on everybody on his A1. So whenever you need that shield to put on your champions to kind of force the boss to go into his second form and try and change all of your buffs into debuffs, that shield is very tempting for him. And so Grisur could work on this fight. I just you'd want to have him with ignoring defense though, because the boss has so much defense. Okay, so here I'll go into Tatura. Tatura I did build for this fight, so I got a little closer to the stats that you need, and I actually have him pretty much built for hard, although he's a little light on a HP for being in hard mode. So I would want to raise his HP a little bit higher than this, but he does survive that fight. Whenever I've used him in the past, he does survive, but it's it gets hairy sometimes. But yeah, he's at 70,000 HP, 4,000 defense, 268 speed. So again, way too fast for this boss, but I'm not going to change his build just for the normal mode. And then he's got 462 accuracy, which is closer to the 475 that you want for the normal. His masteries, I should probably not have bulwark on him. I'm not sure. Maybe I was doing some kind of weird arena build for him or something. But yeah, the bulwark, he's taking damage from your allies. That's really the way I have everybody built for this fight. Isn't really necessary. I would probably maybe switch that over to the accuracy if I could do that over again. But yeah, you can see the masteries here. I don't have cycle of magic or cycle of violence things or anything. But yeah, so he's just these masteries aren't ideal either, but there they are, and it works. I'll be using a Mighty Uko also for this fight. Mighty Uko does a few things that are really good for this. Got him with 487 accuracy, 260 speed, 3,000 defense, and 70,000 HP. If I use Mighty Uko in arena quite often, and I have been using him in Hydra, although the last few rotations of Hydra I haven't been using him. And I've got him with the Cruelty Blessing. Just lowers the boss's defense. That's probably not a great blessing for him, but I was using him in Hydra, and it would be better if I had Brimstone, but I to give more chances for the smite debuff, but I don't want to change his blessing just for this one fight, although now this is kind of the only place I'm using him, so maybe that would be a good idea to use him for that. But I do use it. I do use him for arena a little bit, but again, cruelty's not the best blessing for arena. So masteries, I actually had changed his masteries already for this fight, so I put the accuracy on him there, and the Master Hexer is really important. He's really our only decrease attack champion, and so to make that more consistent, I put the sniper on, and then the Master Hexer to increase the duration of the decrease attack. Same defense masteries that I put on quite a few of my champions, and Laura Steele, and I just put these accuracy ones on just to get to the accuracy level. Mashald, I do not have a Morrigan for the heal reduction, so I'm using Mashald, and Mashald can work. He's not ideal. You see I've got him in perception and some kind of mixed sets here. I've got a couple of pieces of this supersonic gear, perception, and then this is just the resilience gear. And you craft so much resilience gear that sometimes you find pieces that have good stats. And the biggest challenge with Mashald in this fight is keeping him alive. So you'll see that a lot of the things that I've done have been towards keeping him alive, and I did put him in Brimstone for this fight. I used to use Mashald everywhere. I got him very early on this account, and I used to use him in arena, and I used him to beat Nightmare Campaign. It's slow, but I changed everything for him to be able to do this on both hard and and normal difficulty. But see, I've only got him at 247 speed, so he's a little slower than the hard boss, but he's too fast for this normal. So we have to change our rotation a little bit, and I'll show you how I do that. It's just mostly about watching the boss and watching turn meter and making sure that you don't use your abilities too quickly, making sure that you have them available for the right timing. And sometimes you kind of skip a turn by just taking an A1. Anyway, I'll show you how that works when we get there. But yeah, I've got him at 247 speed, 70,000 HP, which is kind of hard to get for him. 2,800 defense, again, difficult. But the 523 accuracy is sufficient for this fight. I do have him in a blood shield accessory also. Again, the shield is good always. There's no time when that shield isn't a good thing to have on you. Again, like I said, brimstone, and then with his tier 6 mastery, I put him with the elixir of life that just gives him 3,000 more HP. I didn't need the accuracy. Obviously, you saw that I had enough accuracy on him, so what he did need was more survivability. And I put Master Hexer on him to increase the duration of his leech, but you can see I got Elixir of Life just for longevity, and the only reason I put Spirit Haste was just to get to Elixir of Life. The rest of these, the Shadow Heal, he does put buffs on the whole team if I use that ability, but I don't always use it. But just to give a little, I was just filling in here. So the Masteries on Mashald mostly toward keeping him alive, because the artifacts are what gave him the accuracy that he needed. And that's the job he does. And I will show you there are some problems with using Mashald in this. It's not ideal, but it worked. And so I was able to make it work with what we had. And then I used Clawed Beast Feeder, and I'm using him mostly just for the shield that he has. He's got a shield on his A2, 20% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. So he's pretty fast. He's 271 speed, so he could be used in the hard also in this build. He doesn't need accuracy, which is nice, and I do have him built with some resistance, but that's just for if I was going to use him somewhere else. I don't think that's enough. It would not be enough for normal mode or hard. It might be enough once in a while for normal, but that's not enough accuracy. Or sorry, that's not enough resistance for this fight, but it could be sufficient in some other places in the game. And then I've got 2,700 defense. I'd like to have more defense on him, but almost 80,000 HP. It's pretty good. It could be better. And then I've got him, just with some mixed sets here: resistance, immortal. So he does have a little healing on the immortal, and then speed. The gear pieces aren't remarkable on him. I didn't rob any gear off of anybody to do this build either. And I do have him in Chainbreaker, just because, if he gets a debuff on one of the CC debuffs, because this boss places both sleep and stun at different times, and so I just thought maybe to break out of that would be helpful. His 5-star blessing is nice, with all the stats that you get from it and everything. So I just went with Chainbreaker just because there's not too many others. We're not doing too much conventional damage with this team either. So we're depending again on Brimstone. And so decreasing the boss's defense really doesn't do that much for this. If you're doing conventional damage, though, you would want somebody in Cruelty. If you were depending on War Master procs or conventional damage, ignoring defense, things like that, you'd want to have a Cruelty blessing on at least one, maybe 2 of your champions. So, but like I said, I do have Cruelty on Mighty Yuko. So those are the builds that I'm using for normal. So we'll go into the fight here, and I'll show you the rotations of it. I'll run it through, and hopefully that'll give everybody a better idea of kind of how this fight works on normal difficulty. Okay, so as we go into the fight here, so what do we need as we get into this fight? We need decrease attack, pretty consistent decrease attack, preferably on an A1. That's why we're using Mighty Yugo. He is not 100%, however. So it's nice to have a backup decrease attack. I don't have that on this team. It hasn't been a problem so far. Ugo is kind of the one I like to include because he also has a buff steel. But the cool thing about Mashald, I'll get into the rotation of skills and I'll kind of explain it as I go here. When we first start out this fight, we just want to use A1s until the boss takes his first turn. And depending on if we have decrease attack on him, he'll use his A3 first. If we can get Mighty Uko to go and put that decrease attack on him. Tatur always usually puts the decrease accuracy on. He's got quite a bit of accuracy, and so he probably will use the A3. Okay, and we have the decrease attack, so he'll definitely on his first turn he'll use the A3, and we just want to A1. And see, Siffi's taking 2 turns. Because of the speed aura, she's twice as fast as the boss. So he uses his A3. We get a brimstone proc. Quite a bit of damage, and you'll see there he turned his debuffs into buffs. Okay, and he actually extends their duration too, which is kind of nasty. The problem is now we have Mashald stunned. We want to get that heal reduction on, and with Mashald being stunned, that's going to be a problem. So he's going to get a heal here. There was no way for us to block the buffs on the first. I mean, we could have, but then it would have been turned against us when he changed form. So we didn't do it. So he is going to heal that damage, and it's not time to put the shield on yet for Clawed Beast Beater. So he does his second one. He does his heal, but then he also gets another brimstone proc. So we still want to get rid of the buffs he has here. That increased accuracy. Okay, that should be better so you can see what's going on. So now because he's got the increased attack and increased accuracy, we don't really care about the increased accuracy too much. He's going to land his stuff anyway, and we don't have anybody built with enough resistance to do anything. What you want to watch is this red passive right here. We wait to do our shields until that turns into a 1, but we're going so fast, we want to also watch our turn meter. So Tatura puts the decreased accuracy on again. Now we want Uko to take that increased attack and increased accuracy from him, and he puts up the block buffs, which isn't going to matter because when he changes form, by the time he gets back to that skill that turns buffs into or debuffs into buffs, by the time he gets back around that will have fallen off. So we're not going to worry about that yet. And there's no sense in putting heal reduction on the boss now. Okay, so he does have a little bit of health taken off of this first turn, and we got a lucky brimstone proc from Mashald there, so that's good. And we just keep A1ing with everybody until this red passive up here that you can see right behind the moon there. Now that's at 1. Okay. When that's at 1, we definitely want to have decreased attack on him, but we're probably going to get another turn before he takes his next turn. So we have the decreased attack. Like I said, with Ugo, that's not 100%. So I think there are replacements for Ugo in this situation that you could use. I hadn't really looked at who was available other than him because I had him. So you may find somebody on your roster that can do a better job at putting the decreased attack on. I'm going to A1 again. Okay, he's getting close to taking that turn. Yeah, so I messed up here. I should have put the shield on. So now he's going to change form. Yeah, I should have put the shield on when I had the chance. So he only took one of these turns because we're so fast. Okay, he's almost ready to take another turn, so we're going to get a couple of chances at some turns here, but we don't want to put up any buffs yet until he does this A2. Yeah, you don't want to have buffs on you. Just trust me. Don't have any buffs on you when he takes that turn. Okay, so we're going to take one more turn of not doing anything. So I should have put the shield on. before he changed form. We did have the decreased attack, which was good. All right, so now, because, okay, so you see the 3 and the 2 here now. So in this situation, now what we want is we want Tatura to put his perfect veil on everybody and leave himself open. So he's not going to attack anyone but Tatura with the veil on. Okay, see, we've got a 2-turn duration on that veil on everyone here. So we can take up to 2 turn, or we can take a turn and still have the veil on us before he takes his attack. And that's important because we're going so fast. Okay, and so now we've got the decreased attack, which is important. We need that. And I'm going to wait for Siffi to put her block debuffs on until her next turn. She's going to get another turn after he takes his single target attack on Tatura. She's going to get another turn, and then we'll put the block debuffs on. So we A1 again. I could have used, because we're okay with buffs now, I could have used the increased speed that Mashaled has, but we're going fast enough. In fact, we're going too fast. If I was gonna optimize this, I would lower all the speeds of all these champions. Because I use them in other places, there's just no reason to do that. Yeah, in fact, Siffi gets another turn before he even took a turn. I'm gonna wait. I'm going to wait until he takes his big single target attack on Tatura. And now because her veil is off, he could attack with his single target. Yeah, he attacked Mighty Yuko, and that's what you don't want. So it looks like I took the Tatura, the veil there, and so we'll remember that for later. I did the veil too early. I should have waited until his next turn, because that big single target attack could have taken Uko out here. So we'll just remember that for later, that we're just going too fast. And now I'm gonna do Siffi's turn meter boost, but it's also gonna give us block debuffs. When he takes his next turn, we're gonna want block debuffs on everybody. And then decrease attack. You know, we'd like to get more brimstone procs, and you know, we can use the increased crit damage that the Mashaled puts on everybody, but there's no sense in doing it. We're not doing conventional damage to beat this boss. Now I could right here. We want block debuffs on us, so I'm going to use the increased defense and block debuffs ability that Tatura has, just to increase that a little bit on the rest of the team. He'll have that available again when we need it. Like I said, we're going so fast that it's not going to matter. Okay, so he's going to change back to his base form. He used his A3 because he wanted these buffs, right? He took the debuffs that we gave him and turned them into buffs, and that's what tempts him to use this A3. So now we have Mashald up, and he's going to, not only is he going to put the heal reduction on, but he's going to steal and take away those buffs. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, the problem with Mashald, or Mashaled, however you want to pronounce it, it doesn't matter. He puts he puts these continuous heals on himself when he does that skill, and they last long enough. It takes us into where he changes form again, and when he does that, he turns those into heal reductions. Okay, so the continuous heals get turned into heal reductions. That's the problem with Mashaled or Mashald on this team. Morgaine would be superior. I don't have her. So we make do with what we've got. So now we want to A1 until all of our buffs fall off as much as possible, and get the decreased attack back on with Mighty Yuko. He's going to hit us. That hit usually isn't too hard, but it's still nice to have decreased attack on it. Okay, so now he's used that ability, and he didn't get his big heal. So you can see we've gone down a chunk of his health just with Brimstone. And we'll just A1 and try and outrun some of our buffs here. Got most of them gone. You definitely don't want to have block debuffs, because he will turn that into block buffs. And we don't have a cleanser. A cleanser is really nice to have on these teams. So if you can work that in, you know, a cleanser that I can't think of a cleanser that does decrease attack or buff removal, but I'm sure there's probably somebody in the game that does it. So be creative, you know, just understanding which skills you have to have in the fight. You can figure out somebody that'll work in that slot. You just have to make sure that you have all the skills covered. And just these are the champions I had that did those, and they were kind of at the top of the list because they're legendaries. But you see, I've got Claude Beastfeeder on there, and he's an epic that I don't even use for anything. I really like him, and he's cool, but he's really, I don't use him anywhere. So I just thought I'd use him for his shield because I needed a shield. And so be creative, you know, look at options that you might have on your roster. Ooh. Okay, so we're down to the 1, right? And look at his turn meter. He's almost a half of his turn meter. So now we're going to want to put this 2-turn shield on everybody. So we want to have buffs on us now that he can't use against us. That's the main thing. So what are buffs that can't be used against you? Shield is a good one. Also increase attack, because having decrease attack on you doesn't hurt you. It doesn't cause you to lose the fight. Increase crit rate or increase crit damage. If he changes those to their opposite, it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to die as a result of having those debuffs on you. But don't put increased defense or block debuffs, any of those kind of things that can be turned. And we really don't want these heals because the heal reduction is bad. And so we do go into it sometimes when he still has those continuous heals on, and you don't want him, but he might get into the fight with them. Oh no, we outran him. That's great. So that's that's the ideal rotation, the scenario there. So we've got the shields on, so he does his A2. I'm sorry, he does his A3, but we're so fast that he doesn't get a chance to do his A2 there with the sleep put on us. So we'll just do A1s again, mostly, till he does his A2. Okay, so he got a brimstone proc on that one again. Now is the time for the veil. So once Tatura gets his turn, we want to put that veil on. Now's the time for the veil. Because we're not speed tuned, we're not really in rotation, so we just have to watch turn meters, and we have to watch kind of where we are in the skill rotation. And that's just part of kind of knowing kind of the game. But I hope I'm explaining this well enough. If there's something that you're fuzzy on or something that I'm not explaining very well, please, go ahead and ask a question. I'm perfectly happy to answer or try and help where I can. It's a difficult kind of fight to do, and I hope this is going to help if you're having trouble with it. Okay, so he did his big single target hit on Tatura there, which is what we wanted. That's why we bring the veil in. And Tatura is a good one to use. Duchess, that's the reason I use Duchess in the hard fight, is so that she can do that. Oh, and you'll notice I'm not using Claude Beastfeeder's A3 ability. It's an increased speed and an increased accuracy, which we could use on us, but we're already going so fast that I kind of don't like to do that. I like to depend on the accuracy that we have built, which I know it's not sufficient for a couple of the champions, but we're still doing okay. All right, I'm going to put her block debuffs on and give ourselves the increased speed and the increased defense. You definitely don't want that when he's changing forms, but right now it's okay. And this is just to block so that he doesn't stun us. When he changes back to his base form and he does that A3, it stuns everybody. And then you miss your turn and it doesn't give you a chance to put the heal reduction on. So it's a good time, for the block debuffs so that we don't miss that opportunity. Good. And we got another smite debuff put back on him. And so Mighty Yuko got stunned. But that's okay because the crucial one here is Mashald. He's the one that we want because, see, he did his A3. We forced him because he had the decrease attack, and he wants that increased attack. He's a greedy boss. He's a mean man. He's a mean Archon. I don't know what an Archon is. Okay, so now we're going to steal the increased attack from him and put the heal reduction on him so that when he does his A2, he doesn't heal. And then we're just going to A1 and try and outrun our buffs now, so that when he changes back form again, we don't have anything on us that he can use against us. Okay. So mostly just A1s here. If you've got a skill that just does damage that's an A2 and doesn't put buffs on your team, you can go ahead and use that as well. But like I said, I'd like to be slower. Like if I was going to build these 5 champions just for this fight, I'd have everybody at around, you know, either 400 speed, which is double the boss, which I'm not, you know, I can't do that with my gear, or just over, you know, the 200 or just under. Sometimes just under is good too. You know, you go like 198 speed or something like that without a speed aura. With the speed aura, we're way too fast. I just didn't have another aura that did any good. I probably should have just switched out the aura just to make us a little bit slower. Sorry, and you can see I'm talking and stuff, so this fight's taking way too long. But it's not that bad. The problem is when you're depending on the brimstone procs, the smite debuff, when you're depending on that to do your damage, you can't control, when you have those lucky procs. And sometimes it kills him when he's in this form, this red form. And I forgot, you'll notice. See, I forgot to put the shield on again. Oh man, I get talking and I forget which skill I need to be doing. But it didn't hurt us this time, so that's good. I'm just going to use it right here, just to use it. We still want the decreased attack, but you'll notice that he didn't put it on that time. Main thing we want now is Tatura's Veil. Okay, that's going to protect everybody else from his big single target hit, and he's going to be forced to hit Tatura. I don't know if I haven't tried this, if the taunt works on that. It may. That might be worth a try. If you have a champion that does taunt, you might want to try that if you don't have somebody that does Veil this way, to force that big single target hit again. You want to be able to direct that hit, because if you've got a champion that's a little bit squishier on the team, he can one-shot him with that hit. So, and having the decrease attack before that hit is really nice too. But you can see the Tatura for this difficulty, it's not that bad. But even though it's normal difficulty and it's a lot easier stat-wise, he still does all the same skills, and so you still have to understand how he works to be able to do this. We got the smite again, that's good. So now he's getting ready. He's going to change back into his base form. So I want to have the block debuffs on, so we don't all get stunned. Mainly it's Mashal. He's the crucial one. When he goes back to his base form, we want Mashal not to be stunned so that he can put that heal reduction on again. And that's why I'm just doing A1s until we get there. I'm going to do it. The increased defense from Tatura is nice, and that just extends that, just in case somebody's going to take another turn before him. Okay, so here we go. So nobody gets stunned. We get the smite proc, and now we didn't have decreased attack on, and he still did his A3. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I don't know if we lucked out there or if there's another mechanic. Maybe the smite forces him to use the A3. And he tries to turn it into something beneficial. I don't know, but that's kind of a interesting thing to me. I hadn't really noticed that. Okay, wait. No, we want to use this. I almost used I almost used his A1. Oh, then he would have got that chunky heal. Okay, so now we're getting down low on health. Brimstone's working. The problem is, if he dies on the next form, he gets, I think, about like a third of his health back, maybe a fourth. And then you have to work him all the way down again. It kind of it can kind of mess up your turn order too when he does that. So you want to watch and make sure that you know which skills he's using and which part of the rotation you're in to know what you need to do to get back on track, because it can kind of mess things up. I had it happen the first time I did this fight on normal this month. Man, it did it twice. He died twice in his alternate form, and it really messed things up. Yeah, so it looks like Mashald is gonna still have these continuous heals on himself when we go back. So those will get changed. Looks like, unless we're quite a bit faster. No, we might overtake him. We might get away with it. He did. He got his turn before the boss. So he did lose those heal reductions. So that's good. And again, I didn't do the shield on Claude early enough. I thought I might get a chance. Okay, so there's your example. And see how he takes his turn and he changes back into his base form after getting that big heal. And now we've got stuns on us. So that's not good. So you realize here he's on his base form because his skills are, the colorful skills, not all the red skills. So he went to his alternate form, or he was in his alternate form, got the Brimstone proc and died. And then it brings him back to life in his base form. But he used his A3, so he could use his A2 now and heal back up some more even. So that's why you want to pay attention to this part of the fight. So when he does that heal, and I'm almost glad it happened so that I could point out what's going on. Now you know you've got to use that heal reduction if you have it available. I don't think Mashald's going to have it available though. Let's look. He does. That's good. Okay, so now he's got the heal reduction. All right, so we're good. So he's not going to heal up, because that heal would be up around here, where his spear is. Oh, it's a chunky heal. All right, so now we just keep going through the rotation of things. We got the Brimstone proc again. That's good. So we watch this passive, and I know I've missed it twice in a row. It hasn't hurt us though, but I did miss it a couple of times. So I'm sorry about that, but you'll see it's still doable. You can still do the fight. All right, we want to wait until this is a 1, okay, to do his shield on Claude's shield here. So his shield is on his A2. Okay, so now we're at the 1. All right, so we definitely want the decrease attack. Oh. See, 1 turn for this decrease attack. That's why Ugo isn't ideal here, is because that A1 decrease attack isn't 100%. And we are still probably going to have these continuous heals on Mashald. And so that's not ideal either. It's not the worst thing in the world. He usually still survives, so it's going to be okay, but okay, so he gets the decrease attack on. Yeah, and see, now we've got a heal reduction on Mashald. But with the shield and everything else, we're probably okay. The nice thing about if Mashald would have used his A2, if I would have had him use his A2 on that just right then, he would have taken an extra turn. And so that would have gotten rid of the heal reduction. But I'm not too worried about it. I think it's going to be fine. We're still waiting for the boss to take his A2. Okay, I'm going to wait to do the veil until after the boss does his A2 here, and then it shows a cooldown there. So we're just going to A1 again until that happens. Okay, so there's his A2 in this form. So now we've got a 3-turn cooldown and a 2-turn cooldown on his main skills. Yeah, and you can see the War Master. I mean, I've got Claude. Did I have Claude in War Master? I think that was a War Master proc. A little bit. It's a little bit helpful. And for Siphi, I'm gonna wait until after Tatura's Veil for Siphi to use her block, her block debuffs and turn meter boost. So. Okay, so now I'm gonna have him do his Veil. Protect the team. It's going to force that big single target attack that he's going to do, but that's on his A1. Even if we had Brimstone on, it wouldn't do anything because Brimstone doesn't proc, or the Smite doesn't proc on his A1. So okay, so he uses big single target, and that did quite a bit of damage to Tatura. You can see if I was using him on the hard difficulty, that probably would have killed him there. So that's something to watch out for. I should probably build him a little tankier if I'm going to use him on the hard difficulty. Okay, so now I'll use Siphi's because now we're at the point where he's going to change back into his base form. Nice thing is we have the Smite, so that'll do quite a bit of damage here. Hopefully on the next rotation when he's on his base form, that'll be the kill shot for him. So, but I'm going to put the block debuffs on everybody here, so that when he does change form, we don't get that stun. That's the main thing you want to be able to put that heal reduction on. Yeah, when this boss first came out, I just thought I'm never gonna understand how this works. But you know, you mess with it, you play it long enough, and you watch some videos about it, and I learned some stuff from some other people, and so you figure it out. It's actually not the worst thing in the world. There seems like there's a lot of RNG, but if you have the right skills and you don't have any cooldown reduction mechanics, that's the main thing where the boss goes through this crazy RNG thing when you have cooldown reduction. That's really where I think all the crazy stuff starts happening with this boss. If you know which buffs and debuffs to put on him and can kind of force him to go through and use his A3, you know, at the right times and then uses A2 when you're ready for it. It's really, I don't think it's that bad. Okay, so we did get the stun on Claude there, and that's not too big of a deal either. Because, like I said, because we're not speed tuned, that can go wrong for us. But we've been kind of fortunate so far. I'm just going to go ahead and do the steal because it's going to give him a block buffs and a decreased accuracy, which, like I said, again, doesn't really matter that much. And then we're going to definitely put the heal reduction on him now. Okay. Now we've got Smite. Now, when he does his A2, I think that Smite's going to do enough damage to end the fight. There we go. So no reward. This ain't my first time. So yeah, you can see Uko did hardly any damage. Tatura's mostly was the smite. We had a couple of smite procs with Mashald, and then Claude had, Claude must be in. He must have War Master. I'm just gonna check real quick here because I don't want to tell you the wrong information. Yeah, so Claude's War Master, it is helpful. And so if you can get some champions, if you can get the stats and everything, I think it's very helpful, and I think it probably would take a lot less time to have your champs in War Master. I hope that helps. I hope that's a good enough explanation. If you're still unclear about something with the way this boss works or kind of what you want to bring into the fight, please put a comment down below. Also, I'm doing a series that I started about 25 days ago now, where I'm comparing two different accounts. I started two accounts on the same day at the same time, One is free to play, and one I'm doing on a monthly budget of $50. And I'm doing them. I'm trying to play it the same way as much as possible, other than the budget, to show the difference between what a spender account looks like, for somebody who's actually using a budget. Not, I'm not trying to be a whale. Obviously, we know what whale accounts look like, but I wanted to show people kind of the difference between a free-to-play account and what you can kind of expect from that, and then the difference between a budget account. And I think $50 a month is quite a bit to spend on a mobile game. And I want to just show people the difference so that they know, if I spend this much money, this is kind of the level of play I can expect compared to a free-to-play. And at the beginning, I thought there's probably not going to be enough of a difference for anybody to think, maybe I want to spend money on the game, but I think everybody should be able to decide that for themselves. So I'm just putting it out there. If you want to go over to the channel and check things out, and maybe give me a like and a subscribe, that would be great if you'd be so kind to do that. I hope that helps, like I said. And if you're having any trouble, if you have other ideas, maybe about which champions to use for the different skills that are needed in this fight, please put them down in the comments. Who've you used? And that might help somebody else who might take a look at the comment section. So that would be great if anybody could do that. And I promise next time I do one of these guides, I will put the champion builds in. And thanks to Aries24 for making that suggestion. I appreciate it. My name is Wood, and I appreciate you.